I think.
Just waiting for the 3 o'clock. It's 2:59. Right. Welcome everyone to the ordinary meeting of Council on the 1st of February 2022. Due to being virtual, the first thing I'd like to do is a councillor roll call. Councillor Marr. You're on mute, Councillor Marr.
Yes, I was. I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ripper.
I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Tatterson.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Wood.
I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Rossetti.
I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Crosley.
Yes, I can see and hear you, Mayor.
Councillor Mackenzie.
I can hear and see you, Mayor.
And lastly, Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. I can see and hear you.
Thank you very much, councillors. Due to ongoing COVID-19 restrictions, the Minister's Good Practice Guideline MGPG-1 virtual meetings issued by the Minister for Local Government continue to apply. Pursuant to Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2020, these guidelines ensure that local government decisions making can continue in line with COVID-19 restrictions, and further details can be found on the Local Government Victoria website. These guidelines took effect from the 1st of May 2020 and remain in place through to 26th of April 2022. While members of the public cannot attend this meeting in person, we've provided options for you to interact with us virtually via our Council Meetings page on the Wellington Shire Council website. You are able to interact with Council in two ways. Email a specific question or comment relating to a particular Council agenda, item no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the Council meeting, or for general questions to Council via the online web form early in this meeting to ensure that your questions can be dealt with at the end of this meeting. While we maintain a virtual way of gathering, we thank you for your ongoing support. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gurno people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. I believe we have no apologies for this. Is there any declarations of conflicts of interest? No. Item 3, adoption of minutes of previous council meeting. Do I have someone to move that?
Yes, I'll move, Mayor.
Councillor Wood.
I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 21st of December 2021.
Do I have a seconder for that?
Happy to second.
I'm happy.
Is that motion opposed? If not, carried. Happy with that, Councillor Wood?
Thank you.
Item 4, business arising from previous meetings. I believe there is none. Item 5, acceptance of late or urgent items. I believe there is none. Item 6, notices of motion. I believe there is none. Item 7, receiving of petitions or joint letters. We have none. Item 8, invite addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. I'd like to speak on this. I'd like to thank everyone for attending our Australia Day events at various locations around Wellington. I believe they were all fantastic days. I know in particular I really enjoyed my first citizenship ceremony. We had 63 new Australians inducted in the SAIL Australia Day event, and it was a fantastic day to see so many people become new Australians. I'd also like to congratulate the schools coming back. Our primary and secondary schools, state schools, started on Monday, yesterday, and our private schools and Catholic schools start later in the week. It's hard times at the moment with COVID, but it's great to see that we are off online learning and we are back to having learning in the schools, but it'll be a little bit differently, and we've got to probably do some rapid tests for the kids, but at least we can get back and learning in the classroom, which is absolutely fantastic. Mr. CEO, did you have some Australia Day information?
Yeah, I've just, thank you, Mayor. And I apologise, I've just sent them through to you, but I'm happy to read them out, Mayor. We always check for the for the gongs, if you like, of the Australia Day Awards that feature Wellington Shire residents, and one of them was to Mr. Lyndon Meredith Webb for service to local government and the community of Sale. And Lyndon, of course, sadly passed away last year, but Lyndon was a previous CEO of the Shire of Wellington. Mayor, and happy for some councillors that want to say and talk a little more about Lyndon, and also to Ms. Christine Morris for services to the community and particularly through the church from Braigalong, I think Ms. Morris is from. So they were two recipients from Wellington Shire.
Thanks, Mr. CEO. Item 9, questions or notice. I believe there are none. Item 10, Delegates Report. There are none. Item 11.1, Audit and Risk Committee member appointment. Do I have someone to move that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor
Stevens, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to move that one. Council appoint an independent member to Council's Audit and Risk Committee for a three-year period in accordance with its charter, commencing 2nd of February 2022, expiring 1st of February 2025, in accordance with a recommendation in the attached confidential Audit and Risk Committee member appointment evaluation report of this council meeting agenda, and item 2 as set out in the council agenda. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Do I have someone to second that?
I'll second.
Councillor Wood. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. But I'd like to announce the successful appointment of Mr. Tony Smith. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so of course, under the charter of our Audit and Risk Committee, we are required to have 3 independent members on the committee, the chair and 2 other ordinary members, and as well we have 2 councillor representatives. So the appointment of Mr. Smith is welcomed. He expressed interest and applied for the vacancy and was interviewed. And yes, he, I believe, will certainly provide an outstanding contribution to our Audit and Risk Committee, as indeed do the other independent members. I think we have a very well-functioning Audit and Risk Committee, so we look forward to working with Mr. Smith over the next 3-year period. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. Item 12.1, Assembly of Councillors. I have someone to move that. Councillor Tatterson's got a hand. I think you're on mute. Councillor Tatterson.
I'm happy to move that, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I was on mute. I move that Council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillors records for the period of 13th of December 2021 to the 22nd of January 2022.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Tatterson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just notes the work that the councillors have done over that period, particularly over the Christmas period, Christmas New Year period, and thanks to all the councillors for all their fine work.
Thanks, Councillor Tatterson. Item 13.1, Residential Stocktake and Facilitation Strategy. Do I have someone to move that?
I'm happy to move that, Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Marr.
I move that Council adopt the Residential Stocktake and Facilitation Strategy Report as attached.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has recognised that there's a critical housing and rental shortage within Wellington Shire. And however, I acknowledge that this certainly isn't isolated to our municipality, and COVID has certainly exacerbated this across the state of Victoria, particularly regional areas. Mesh planning, where the consultants appointed to undertake the review of land supply across our major main urban towns of Sale, Maffra, Stratford, Hayfield, Yarram, Longford and Rosedale. An investigation was also requested that consideration be provided around proactive facilitation and assistance that would enable the release of developable land as well. Engagement was undertaken at the coalface, which included developers, real estate agents, our state government agencies, as well as councillors' offices from Wellington Shire, as well as other municipalities. Conversations were frank and all feedback has certainly been considered. 5.1 of the report outlines a number of recommendations, including the suggestion of forward funding essential public infrastructure. 5.2 to 5.3 discusses this in a more broader context. So I certainly recommend that everyone read this report. What this discusses more broadly is a proposal that the City of Greater Shepparton is currently implementing that is known as a procurement of public infrastructure works. It's a policy that forward funds key development infrastructure that helps develop greenfield sites across their shire. Wellington Shire certainly needs an equitable choice of housing and economic growth improvements, and this is certainly an opportunity that I'm sure we as planners but developers may also welcome. Developing greenfield sites within our shire are certainly not the same as can be seen in metropolitan Melbourne or those regional areas that are far more built up with a greater population density. Higher development costs that involve drainage, retention basins and road intersection upgrades certainly impact development and viability within our region. So we certainly, speaking on behalf of councillors, I'm sure that we all look forward to further discussions as a result of this report. And I'd also like to thank everyone that participated. There were a lot of private individuals that took a lot of their own personal and business time out to participate, as well as the MESH consultants who were very approachable, councillors who participated, as well as Brent McAllister, our General Manager of Development, and his team for undertaking this work. It's been really appreciated and I think very exciting going forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Marr. Yes, that's a very important document for the future of Wellington. Item 14.1, contracts award under the Chief Executive Officer's delegation. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Crosley, go ahead.
I move that one, council note that contract 2022-064 Macmillan Street Construction Special Charge Scheme, Stratford, and contract 2022-070 Boyles Road Construction Special Charge Scheme and Longford have been awarded by the Chief Executive Officer within budget under delegation by Council. And 2, Council note that the contract 2022-063 Duke Street Road and Drainage Construction at Yarram was not awarded as the tenders were over budget. And 3, be taken as read.
Do I have someone to second that motion? Councillor Ripper, is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. And I'd like to announce the successful tenders for contract 2022-064 Macmillan Street Construction Works, Stratford, as Fowler's Asphalting Pty Limited, and contract 2022-070 Abels and Balls Road Construction Works, Longford, as Bensall Road Services Pty Limited. Congratulations to both companies. Councillor Crosley.
Just to clarify to our viewers that this was over and above the usual delegation to the Chief Executive Officer. This was made at the council meeting, our last council meeting on the 21st of December, to make sure that the good business of the Shire would continue while we were having that break, and so that the construction program wouldn't be held up. So, and it was determined at that meeting that we would receive those, the powers that were delegated at the next meeting of the council, and that's today. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Item 15.1, approval of draft early years infrastructure plan, draft community infrastructure plan and draft sporting infrastructure plan. Do you have someone to move that? Councillor Crosley. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council approve the attached early infrastructure plan, community infrastructure plan and sporting infrastructure plan developed under Council's Community Management Facilities Strategy 2020-25.
Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Crosley.
These are incredibly important documents, and they give a framework for future funding, future grants, applications, and also gives the community a solid understanding of where the priorities are, how they're come about, and so that we can, both the officers and the council and the community, to work together to manage the facilities successfully. It's a very complex space with all of the facilities. There's a mixture of privately owned, community-owned, council-owned, DELP-owned, DELP-managed, community-managed, council-managed. So it's a really complex space to work in. And going back to the community-managed, it's interesting to realise that, really without the volunteers, most of our facilities, and particularly the sporting facilities and the community venues, wouldn't be operating. So it's a really big shout out to our community that put their hand up to do that. It's also interesting that that's not just for the sporting areas, but our early childhood centres are also, the majority of them, managed by the community sector and volunteers on those boards as well. So we really have an engaged community in making a better place for their fellow Wellingtonians. I think it's also important to know that some of these strategies have already been implemented. I know that the communities that have seen an increase in their risk management subsidy over the last couple of years, which really has enabled the volunteers to keep those facilities up to speed and in appropriate condition, both for contemporary standards and also for community use. And also acknowledging the difficulties that have both human resources and financial resources that the COVID has impacted over the last 2 years for those community facilities to enable them to develop their income. So this is also acknowledged in that. It's quite amazing to think that I think there's over 120 sort of social facilities, halls and venues, and 312 hectares of sporting facilities that are managed within our community. When you add all of that, it's just an amazing amount of infrastructure that we need to manage and make sure that it's suitable going forward. It was really that the community was well engaged in this process. We had nearly 600 surveys completed, so great feedback there. There were 61 people did online community engagement, and there was a whole lot of particular service industries, key players that were also interviewed to get these documents. This was also part of a previous, as I say, the community managed facility strategies. This was one of the major requirements that came out of that to actually develop these programs. So these will be reviewed over the next in about 3 to 4 years to make sure that they're meeting the aims that were set out there and meeting the community's aspirations, and also to meet the new challenges. We certainly know we've got a big challenge in the early learning area, which is important both on an educational side, but also for people, to attract people to come here to work, to make it a place where they can get suitable childcare so they can go and work and enjoy all the bounties that Wellington has to offer. So really incredibly important documents, and I really thank the community's strong engagement in bringing these to fruition, and congratulations to the team. Huge body of work over a long period of time in difficult circumstances, but it was certainly strategies that the community were well engaged with, and I think they're great outcomes. So thank you very much.
Well said, Councillor Crossley. Further gathering online comments. Mr. CEO, I believe we have one at this stage.
Yes, we do, Mayor. We received an email from, in fact, an ex-youth councillor of Wellington Shire Council, Akana Bowers, on the 25th of the 1st, just in relation to, and I won't read it out, Mayor. Councillors have been provided with a copy. I'll resend it again subsequent to this meeting. Mayor, it's really just about how to provide information to homeless people in Wellington, and whether or not information about accessing services can be posted in infrastructure like telephone boxes. So we've actually responded to Arcana, Mayor, and we're talking to Telstra at the moment to seek their views on whether they think that's an idea that they might be happy to support, and we'll let Arcana know that, and we'll provide a response to councillors when we get an answer from Telstra, hopefully in the not too distant future. That was the only one, Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. CEO. That is all we have on the agenda, but I believe we have to move into closed session.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to do that. I move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider matters under Section 66(5)(b) as defined by Section 3(1) being F, personal information being information which, if released, would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. I don't believe we need to second that, or we do. Councillor Stevens?
I'll second.
Thanks very much. So we move into closed session.